Hello, everybody. This is Nicky from Motherhood Unfiltered. It's going to be okay. And today's guest is Ash Burnside. And before I bring her on, I just want to remind everybody that if you're watching on YouTube, to comment, like, and subscribe. If you've already done that because you're awesome, then share it with someone that you care about. Also, if you're listening on the podcast, please rate and review on Spotify or iTunes. Okay. That lets me know how well I'm doing. It's kind of like a report card. And I do like to get decent grades. So I need y'all to tell me how I'm doing. And then just to reiterate, this week I have been doing my free workshop online, and it's called Get Out of the Funk. So if you have been dealing with depression and anxiety, then this is for you because I'm someone who deals with depression and anxiety. And these are the steps that I did to help myself get out of that deep, dark era that I was in. And I know if it helped me, it'll help you too. So I would really love for you to check it out on my website, www.nickyasherbowling.com/free workshop. So head over there and check it out. And definitely leave us a comment that you were there to say hi. And without further ado, here is Ash Burnside.
Hello.
Hello, Ash. I'm so glad we finally got to do this.
Yes, I'm excited to be here.
It's been a long time. It was last year.
No, I know. Oh my gosh. That sounds crazy when you actually say it out loud.
I know. But it feels like yesterday sometimes. I'm like, didn't we just talk?
Yeah,
so,
yeah.
so Ash, tell us about what you do. And I know that you switched from helping like high performers or entrepreneurs to helping more or less people that are being burned out
Mm.
on their job or coaching. So tell us that about that and the transition that you took.
So I used to work in marketing. I started my business actually, and that's what my business was. For 6 years, I did marketing, and I got really, really good at it. I classify myself as a high achiever, so I am someone that is always going to push myself really, really hard. And it worked until it didn't, because I pushed myself right into burnout. And so it informed a lot of the transition that we're talking about here, of just like what that is, what to look out for, because a lot of that comes from my own experience of
Yeah.
living through that and like really seeing the signs and then just totally blowing past all of those signs. So that's what I do now is I help people from all sorts of walks of life, high achievers,
hmm
moms, all the things, to really see the signs of burnout and to help themselves before it happens and then come back to
hmm
themselves once they're getting past that season of burnout.
Wow. So, I mean, so what, I mean, I think I know what burnout is, but explain it to me or, tell us about what burnout really means. I mean, because there are sometimes I want to burn my house to the ground, because I just can't take it
Yeah,
anymore.
sure. There's certainly different definitions of burnout. So I think like a more like a clinical setting of burnout would be when you are feeling chronic stress and depletion, because
Uh-huh.
there's too much on your plate. In a more physical setting, this is going to look like a lot of times actually burnout can look like numbness. To me, this is like the
Mhm.
danger level, the things you feel beforehand of like the like rage, like I just want to burn down, forget about it. Those are good precursors, but like when you're in burnout, it's numbness, it's
Yeah.
disconnection, it's you can't feel anything anymore. It's complete tap out.
Oh.
My definition of burnout, though, is when you have been crowded out from your own life. There's too many things that are taking up space, and you don't have the ability to just exist as yourself with who you are, your passions, your hobbies, and just all of that. There's no more space for you. That is my definition of burnout.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that would, to me, would probably be the worst, because how do you get out of that stage? I mean, if you're in a, like, if you are in a numbness and you don't have control of your life, how do you find the words to come back from that?
Yeah. Yeah. This was a really dark part of my own chapter of like, what
Mhm.
do you do when you get there? Because no one talks about it. No one talks about that. That's what it feels like. Because that's what I had seen in my research and trying to
Yeah,
just articulate, like, I'm feeling this way. And like, what is this? What am I
yeah,
feeling? Because when people talk about burnout, it's like, oh, they can't get out of bed, or, which to me is like
yeah,
depression, or they can't get out of their head,
yeah,
anxiety. And I'm like, I feel those things, yes, but like
yeah.
there's something else here. What is this?
Mhm.
And that was really it. And that's why I had to come up with my own language of like, what is this thing? Like, why do I feel like this?
How can
Um,
Ash explain this?
Yes, yes. So I worked with a series of coaches. I had my own therapist. I had a team of doctors that was working with me because I was really
Yeah,
like across the board. It was mental, it was emotional, it was spiritual, and it was very
yeah,
deeply physical. For
yeah,
women, especially getting like burnt out as far as that
yeah.
affects us physically, like, oh my gosh, hormone depletion. It really
Oh my
depletes,
lord, yes.
yeah, a lot of the adrenal function. So, yeah, I had a whole team of people trying to help me give context to like, what is this thing that I'm feeling? So burnout is what that is.
I'm like, why does it, when something goes wrong, the first thing that gets attacked is our hormone system? you know, I
Yeah,
mean, we're emotional creatures anyway, and then on top of that, that's the first thing that goes. Like, I
yes,
was like, no wonder we've seen so many more stories in the news about women who have are doing horrible things
yeah,
because they're just feeling so overwhelmed by what is expected of them, right?
yeah, yes,
And I hate that. I just hate when I read a story and they're just suffering. They're suffering and they just want the pain to go away. And
yeah, yeah.
sometimes they do that in the wrong way.
Yes, yes, yeah. They have
So,
no support and no tools, and yeah, they get
oh yeah,
caught.
for sure. So you realize you're in a burnout, but so what are some of the things that the steps that someone can take to start, getting out of that mindset or that era or whatever you want to call it?
Yeah.
I mean, what would
Um,
Ash call that?
Yeah. Um, there was a couple things that I did. So mindfulness was a huge thing. And I know that's like a huge umbrella term. So I want to get more specific about it.
Yeah.
So mindfulness in two different directions is what I did. So number one is I started taking just 10 minutes a day because it's hard to know like where do you start and what do you do. So my
Okay.
first objective was like, I'm just going to start with 10 minutes. For 10 minutes, I'm just going to exist. Coming back to like my definition of burnout of like you get crowded out of your own life, like it just felt like I didn't have time to be me. And then I
Uh-huh.
got so overloaded, like I didn't even know who me was anymore because I just felt
Yeah.
so disconnected.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I started with just one time a day, just one time a day. I'm just going to set a timer for 10 minutes and I'm not going to do anything. And so the point of this was just to try to show myself that like it's safe for me to just exist. Like I don't have to
Mhm.
be productive. I don't have to do a thing. I don't have to do anything. I can just start to just be me.
Yeah. Yeah,
Um,
exactly.
and that was really helpful. And so that was part of that mindfulness. And so
Mhm.
now what I tell my clients is the same thing. Start with just 10 minutes. Just set a timer for 10 minutes. And I would even take it a step farther and say you do two things. You do one thing for your body and one thing for your mind. This is going to be very simple. The thing that you do for
Okay.
your body is very nourishing. So in this
Uh-huh.
10 minutes, it's, am I thirsty? Great. Fill up a glass of water and just sip it throughout the 10 minutes.
Yeah.
Are you hungry? Great. Get a little snack. You don't have to prepare yourself a big thing. Get some you can find and you're just taking little mindful munches throughout your 10 minutes.
Mhm.
If you're feeling stiff, just do some light stretching. It's very like the idea of this is that it doesn't take up a lot of brain space or energy to
Mhm.
so that's
Mhm.
what you do for your body. The thing you do for your mind is nothing. You do nothing for your mind. It's not about like doing a guided meditation. It's not about journaling or like again, like you're trying to conserve your brain power because at this point, like there's too much that's being asked of you.
Mhm.
And so nothing. This was just a huge
Mhm.
permissive slip of, if I just want to light a candle and stare at the flame for 10 minutes to stay focused on doing nothing, then like that's what I did. That's what I did for 10 minutes.
Yeah. So do
So
you
that's,
do this? I mean, is there a specific time of the day that you do this?
yes, that was my next thing.
Okay.
So
Sorry, I'll be quiet.
no, this is good. This is good. It keeps me focused too. Um, So I started doing this just in the mornings because it was the easiest time. I would take my kids to school, and then I would have like this little window naturally where like I would get myself
Mhm.
dressed before I would like start doing either business things or job things, whatever that was,
Mhm.
for whatever
Right.
season that was in. And so I started with the mornings because that was the easiest, and that's where I tell people to start. It doesn't have to be mornings, but just what's the easiest time that's available to you. If it's during your lunch hour because you're already doing things like that, great, do it during your lunch hour. But that was the next step, was to increasing the frequency. So instead of once a day, trying to do 10 minutes twice a day, and then getting it up to 3 times a day, so that at each portion, each phase of the day, I get to feel like I get to just exist. Nothing's being
Right.
demanded. I'm starting to just come back into connection with myself.
Right.
So it's the first part of like the mindfulness that helped me just to take some breaths and realize that like
Yeah.
I'm safe, I'm okay, this is going to be okay. Um, Even when it's going to be okay. I love that. That's like the song of the show. To me, when
I
I
was
was
like, that's such a good saying. How'd she come up with that?
yes, um,
I
that
might
truly,
all do what you're saying, like, yeah, I'm gotta be mindful, you know?
yeah. That's where it came from. Me trying to tell myself it's going to be okay for 10 minutes at a time. That's it.
I know the
Um,
feeling.
yeah, a lot of moms do. It's like it's a lot,
Yeah.
because like what you're saying, like what we see on the news, like it's a
Yeah.
lot of pressure. It's an
Mhm.
enormous amount of pressure, and I would go so far as
Mhm.
to say it's an inhumane amount of pressure.
Oh
At
my
no
gosh,
other point
yes.
in history has have moms been demanded so much of us.
Yeah.
You're supposed to
Yeah.
have a job. You're supposed to be knowing what your kids are doing in school. If you're a
I
homeschool mom,
know.
you're doing curriculum, and like you're supposed to be
Yeah.
making sure you're emotionally connecting to your kids and then your spouse and have your hobbies, and like just like keep adding on the stuff, and like no wonder we're all just absolutely freaking out.
Exactly. I that has been on my mind so much lately, and I was just thinking out loud earlier today. I was like, yeah, I wanna be this big superwoman, feminist woman, but there are things I need to say no to. I can't do all the things, you know, and no wonder women would have a nanny or they would send their kids off to boarding school. I mean, I used to think that was the most horrible thing in the world, and now at this age, I'm like, maybe they knew something I didn't know because I can't do it all, and they already realized they couldn't do it all, you
Mhm.
know? I mean, they were forced to run a household and hold parties and things like that for their husband and his business, and I mean, they worked all the time.
Yeah,
We can't
yeah.
do it.
No, I don't think we're supposed to. I actually really love that you had said like, don't feel like you're being a feminist because you can't do the things. And
I
I just
know.
got done reading this book. It's called Lean In by Sheryl Strandberg, who is the
Uh-huh.
COO of Facebook.
Okay.
Fantastic read about women in leadership, and she talks
Yeah.
about a lot of these things of just like struggles,
Yeah.
like being a mom, like doing the things.
Yeah.
She said something really intelligent, and I was like, I'm gonna remember that because I used to think this too. She had
Right.
said that the idea of superwoman is the antithesis to feminism, because
Uh-huh.
feminism isn't about doing it all. All feminism was giving us a choice. That's what
Oh
it was
my
about.
god.
Yeah.
Ash, you have no idea. I talked about that. I was like, if this is not the idea of being a feminist, I need somebody to tell me that it's not about doing everything, you know?
No, totally
That
not.
makes so much sense. Why do we feel like that? Why do we feel like we have to do all of it? I mean, are we is that the persona that's being put out there, or I don't know. I really don't know, but that's how I felt.
Yeah,
And then you said that, I was like, "Oh, I can give myself grace. This is a choice. It's not
the
a
choice.
responsibility."
Yes, yes, yes.
We turn everything into a job.
I know, I know. It's hard not to though. It's hard not
I
to,
know.
especially when like, we have a culture and a society that says that motherhood is not a job. And like, yes, it is. This is the most important job. First of all, this
They
is an
obviously
unpaid
did not meet my kids, you
job.
know.
Clearly, yes. Oh my gosh. I have 3 boys, and like just trying to stay on top of the laundry is a full-time job. So like, don't even get me started.
I'm like, you know what? We're all gonna have one outfit, okay? And you're all gonna wash your own outfit at the end of the day.
I finally bought all the same colored socks. I'm like, I'm not matching socks anymore. They're all one color. Just go in the sock bin and pick out your socks.
Well, that was the first thing I did, Ash, when because I raised 3 boys, and they all had the same color socks, and we had a sock basket that was unmated, and then a sock basket that was mated.
Oh, that's
So
genius.
there was just 2 baskets. We did not use drawers for any of that stuff. We went to the sock basket.
The sock basket. My boys call it the orphan bin when we don't have mismatched socks. The orphan bin.
Well, if they're all the same, you can
Yeah.
tell which ones get orphaned because they have holes in them,
Yes, yes, yes.
But yeah, I totally get that. I mean, what little things can we do to kind of save ourselves? And that was
Right.
one of them. That was the sock basket.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it's just there are so many times when people have made remarks to me, people I didn't even know, about how I was taking care of my child out in public, or I had one that was a runner. And so I finally bought a harness, put on him, and that way I could not have to chase him out in the street. Cause I mean, that's just so dangerous, but then the whole thing was, well, you're just not disciplining him to make him mine. I'm like, he's 3.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yes. And that's the other thing that absolutely can contribute to burnout, especially for moms, is like
Yeah.
all of the voices, all of the opinions, and then all of the
Yeah.
pressure. Like, you got to get it right. You're
Yeah.
not doing this right. Like, here's the other things you have to be doing. And like, oh, shut up. Just be quiet for a minute. I can figure this out.
I know. I hear all the grandmas telling me, you know,
Yeah.
I'm like, stop. I can't. Okay. I don't want to be that person.
Yeah. Yeah. And like truthfully too, like, kids are, and I think this has probably always been true, but I think we're waking up to this more as women, as a
Yeah.
culture, as a society, that like kids
Hmm.
demand something different of us. And the things that used to
Yeah.
work before, they worked because people were in a state of survival and it had to work that way. So like you
Hmm.
had to have, this sense of strict discipline because it was life or death on
Yeah.
the line. It was a matter of being able to
Yeah.
put food on the table. But like things are different now. And like we're to a point in an expansion, I guess, of
Hmm.
the way that our brains work and in the way that our society even works. We're like emotional intelligence is just as important as
Hmm.
cognition and like books.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
that's not something that you
Yeah.
can teach. That's something that you parent. And so that's why we have this whole other aspect of parenting that's coming in. That's hard. It's really hard.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause I just turned 50 this year. And so I it happened, did not happen. And I'm learning now that, oh crap, I got a buttload of things I need to clear out of my bone closet,
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
never dealt with them, when I should have.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's all good. My poor mom, she still has mom guilt, and we're all, I'm her oldest and I'm 50. So
Right.
I guess it never goes away. But like, mom, stop. You did the best you could with what you had. And um, so anyway, so my next question was, so what what can we do? We realize we have burnout and we start taking care of ourselves. Like you're doing the 10-minute things a day,
Yeah.
the 10-minute for yourself. So what can we do to prevent that burnout?
Mm,
If we feel like we got a handle on it, how can we stop it from coming back?
yeah. Yeah. Um, This is such a good question.
I know it's like we could be here for 5 hours.
I know I'm trying to think like what's the succinct way that I can say this without giving a dissertation? Um, How can we prevent it from happening? So my answer to this question could technically be applied to any point in the cycle. So whether you're like
Yeah.
in and trying to come out of it, or you're trying to
Right.
prevent it,
Right.
this is a good tonic for either end of the spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I really promote the observance and the honoring of natural rhythms. And here's what I mean by that. So I
Mm-hmm.
mean getting to know your own natural rhythms. And this is anything from being able to acknowledge that you're a morning person or a night owl, and then creating space for that.
Yeah.
Or as far as like, women, we are cyclical beings. And so instead of trying to
Right.
like transcend your cycle, why can't we honor it instead? There's always the like, oh, I'm PMSing and I'm sorry, I'm crying, or like I'm super mean and moody because I'm PMSing, or I just started my cycle. And like for so long, we've tried
Uh-huh.
to excuse it away, like, oh, I'm sorry. When instead, like, from a point of honoring it as a natural rhythm, what if instead you were weepy and crying because that was a part of your cycle that was inviting you to feel all the feelings that you did not have the time or the bandwidth for throughout the
Mm.
rest of your cycle? And
That's a
what if
good look on that.
yeah, same thing with like, if you get really moody or you get really angry, what if that
I'm
was an
being a
invitation?
woman.
Yes, exactly. That was an invitation to lay the boundaries that you couldn't
Yeah.
see needed to be laid beforehand.
Right.
So those are all mechanisms that are supposed to be there to prevent you from burnout. So we can
Yeah.
start acknowledging that and honoring that as part of who we just innately are. That will go a really long way in preventing burnout from slipping in.
Wow, that is such a good take on that because I've heard so many times, I'm sorry, but every other woman has to deal with it. What is your problem? You
Yeah.
know, and I'm
Yeah.
like, but uh you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
I have lots of problems. Now, what's interesting to me is so okay, so I was raised with three sisters, and then the funny thing is when you grow up with women, you cycle one right
Mm.
after another. Isn't
Mhm.
that so weird? And then
Yeah.
when I worked in an office with a bunch of women, it happened at the office too.
That's
And
awesome.
because we worked so many hours together, we were close, we would be in those cubicles
Yeah.
and we would start cycling one right after another. And we would know for sure whose turn it was to be the ball bag for that week, because it was their week, time in the month or whatever. I just found that was so amazing
Yeah.
that no matter how advanced we become in our world or how much technology we know, we still go back to the basic of nature,
Yeah.
and how our body works with, how it works with the changing of the moons and all of that. That is just so incredible to me. I can't even wrap my head around it and be like, oh, it's a full moon out.
Yeah.
Y'all better watch out or something,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know. I don't know any that much about it, but I know that it happens, and how women used to live by the changing of the seasons and by the changing of the phases of the moon.
Yes.
And it's like maybe we should kind of pay more attention to that,
Yes.
in our
Yes.
day to day. I
Yeah.
mean, I find that amazing. You're probably like, okay, lady, you need to catch up with the
No, no,
rest of
no.
us. But
That's truly part of like the other part of natural rhythms. Like that is what I tell people to do. Like start
yeah,
just paying attention to the phase of the moon that it's in. And not because
yeah,
you have to assign meaning to it, but because it will help to connect you something outside of yourself. So if you struggle with depression
yeah,
or anxiety, this very isolating experiences. Burnout is a very isolating experience. So
yeah,
getting in tune not only with your own natural rhythms, but with the natural rhythms happening around you can help to
hmm,
connect you back with reality, can help to connect you back with
wow.
something outside of yourself. And that's really profound and just helping you to feel more grounded.
I love that. I just think it's so amazing. And it is something on my want to learn list. I have a list with things I want to learn more about, but I only have so many hours in a day.
Yeah, fair.
And once I start on one thing, it's like it takes forever, it seems like, to learn something. But So, Ash, how can we get in contact with you if we need to find out more about preventing burnout,
Yeah.
in our lives?
Yeah, I am very active on Instagram, so I would love for you to follow me on Instagram. My handle is exactly what my business name is, so it's Healing Hustle Co.
Uh-huh.
And I talk about a lot of this stuff pretty much on
Yeah.
the daily. So preventing burnout. I do talk about moon rhythms and finding your own natural rhythms and the
Yeah.
things that you can do to get out of and prevent it. So you can find me there.
Wow. I really love that you do talk about that. The interesting enough about Instagram is I never get on Instagram, but I made sure I posted there in case, I picked up some followers, and I get more responses out of Instagram, and I don't even do anything on I mean, I don't get on personally and interact. And
Yeah.
so when I was checking my analytics, I was seeing that I was getting more responses there. I thought, man, I better learn how to use Instagram. And I try to do some lives and stuff. And I'm like, where's the shut off button? I don't see the off button. And
I still do that every time I do a live. I'm like, oh crap, I forgot where it's at already.
it's in a weird place. It's like up here in the corner somewhere. I'm like, I'm used to hitting the button down here. That's my Instagram Nikki story. So, but I'm doing better with it. So, Ash, I'm so happy that we finally got to talk about this. And I hope that you'll come back in the future so we can talk about burning our houses down or not burning our houses down.
Not burning the houses down. I would love that. I would love that. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. Thank you. Bye.